Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The chairs of the City Council and County Commission tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes, publisher of the Memphis Daily News. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Heidi Schaefer, chair of the Shelby County Commission.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Berlin Boyd is chair of the Memphis City Council. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
Along with Bill Dries, senior reporter with the Memphis Daily News. Well, we'll talk. It's still early in the new year, and we'll talk about certainly things that have happened. But I want to just start generally as you both look ahead to this year. Biggest challenges you face as a county commission, as a city council. And I'll start with you, Heidi. What are the biggest challenges? I mean, you've got a great economy, tax revenue's up, but I imagine there are many things you look at and wonder how you're going to get done.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, it's no secret that for Shelby County, which of course includes Memphis, crime is our biggest issue. Taxes are second. And we're going to have to get a handle on what's going on with opioids, which we're pushing very, very solidly on the county commission, but we're going to have to get a handle on it because in talking with our sheriffs, almost every single police call has something to do with opioids. And that is going to be the biggest challenge, not just for Shelby County, but for the whole country. Yeah,
and we'll break down all those, but for you, Chairman Boyd, your challenges as a city council?
Well, definitely we're faced with dealing with crime as an issue, but we're also dealing with what overall repercussions the city of Memphis may face by the removal of those monuments. One thing that we were seeking is an expansion of our TDZ, Tourist Development Zone, downtown. We don't know if our actions will cause the state to frown upon that. The one thing that we don't have to face and worry about as much as the county is the opioid issue. It affects Memphis, but the county takes on more responsibility as far as the jails, hospital. So therefore, it's an issue with Memphis, but our county counterparts are fighting that issue. And the one thing that I think that we're looking at is how we're going to make sure that we can carry out the plans to increase funding in our parks and neighborhoods and libraries throughout the city. So we're looking for that extra funding to make sure that we start funding more programs to make our youth more active and have productive things to do rather than just being idle.
And again, we'll break down a lot of those issues you brought up, but we'll do the statutes, I think, maybe start there. And you referenced what people have talked about, whether the legislature or people within the bureaucracy within state government will exact punishment, as it were, or in some fashion for Memphis removing the statues. You all, I saw Kemp Conrad, I think former chair, maybe he's now vice chair, but anyway, former chair of the city council in Nashville last week at the opening of the legislature, working with a lobbyist. What have you heard from Nashville in terms of possible retribution?
Well, you know, our lobbyists, we have the Ingram Group for the council to represent us, and Kemp chairs that committee, Government Relations Committee. And the one thing that we've been doing is just trying to reach out and be proactive and let people know all about Memphis. We're telling the Memphis story. And I think the one thing that we have to realize that a lot of those legislators never been to Memphis. They don't know. They only base Memphis off what they've heard. The one thing that we can say, Memphis gets voted the #1 most giving charitable city every year, year after year. Those are the type of people that live in Memphis. And I think that overall, we're hearing that they may hold state funding. They may deny our application as far as expansion of the TDZ. So it's all about, you know, who can gain the most media attention as to retributions on Memphis. It's our goal to make sure that we are saying that, hey guys, a lot of people don't even know about MLK 50. This is coming up on the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And when you spread that word to some of the legislators, they say, well, oh, I didn't realize that. So the world's media will be on Memphis during April 4th, so we didn't need those type of monuments in our city.
And Heidi Schaefer, the county commission wasn't involved in terms of voting or removing the statues, and Memphis is but one part of Shelby County, but obviously it's the biggest part of Shelby County. Your take on the legislature or the state government, things you've heard or haven't heard about some sort of punishment for the city for removing the statue?
So I haven't really heard of anybody talking about punishing our area. I have joined a group called West Star, which is a group of people from every county in West Tennessee. And Memphis, Memphis-Shelby County isn't the only area that we feel is kind of getting ignored up in Nashville. It's all of West Tennessee. And what I'm doing is I'm working with a group of very, very motivated individuals from each of the counties in West Tennessee. And we're trying to move together to influence what all of West Tennessee needs in order to move forward. We think that Middle Tennessee is doing great, East Tennessee has been doing great for a long time. West Tennessee needs to bond together. And I've been amazed at what a good, diverse group, very, very rural and very, very urban, willing to work together to make sure that in Nashville, with the legislature, that we're well represented and they see what a huge economic benefit West Tennessee as a total can be.
Bill.
Berlin, I would be surprised if you didn't anticipate that the legislature might have some reprisals for the decision on this. But now that you're hearing specific things about this, do you in any way regret the decision to sell those parks and have the monuments come down?
Absolutely, unequivocally, no. I mean, I think it was the best decision. I think that the political will and the alignment between the council and the mayor's administration was there. And as we all know, that this has been an issue in the city of Memphis for quite some time, but the political will and the cohesiveness was not there. The stars aligned perfectly. We had smart attorneys. Alan Wade was as a genius. He never ceases to amaze me. But you know, we went through the process the proper way. You know, they set parameters, and the sad part, they were beat by their own game. And so it's kind of amazing to me. They put the parameters in place. We abided by the parameters. No one reached out to allow us an opportunity to mediate this item. And so the court dates were even denied. So what else could we do? We wanted those monuments removed before MLK 50, and we got them done.
Is there a game plan for if the TDZ is denied?
You know, right now the city is staying focused on making sure that we have the best plan put in place. No city in the state of Tennessee has ever been granted an extension on their TDZ. If it happens, we will be the first. We're being optimistic. And we're going to make sure that if not, we will figure out a way to fund those projects to make sure that Memphis can continue to grow and make sure that we gain energy throughout the city of Memphis.
Heidi, Chairman Boyd talked about working with Alan Wade. You all have also been working with Alan Wade.
And he is a genius.
Okay. All right. And this involves the opioid litigation. The last time that I looked in, Mayor Luttrell had filed a motion to intervene in the lawsuit that the commission filed that you authorized and the commission ratified. Where does that intervention stand now? Are you still setting the ground rules for that?
Well, we're moving forward on two fronts. The front that we care most about is moving forward with the suit. And it's extremely important to move forward with the suit because the opioid crisis is so deep. Did you know that the average time that it takes to recover, for your brain to get straight from an opioid addiction, and over half of those opioid addictions and deaths come from prescription opioids, not street illegal, prescription. It takes 18 months to 2 years to get straight. So our little 30 to 60-day treatment programs aren't getting it at all. The cost for recovery from the opioid problem, which is deep, which affects our workforce, which affects how our kids can learn, it affects babies born addicted, it affects what we pay for through health care, it affects what we got to cover in jails. It's huge, and the bill is steep, and that should not rest on my taxpayers. We didn't create the problem. That bill, those programs are going to need to be funded from somebody, and it needs to be funded from the people who are disregarding blatantly the rules and the laws that are already out there, what they're supposed to be doing to make sure that there is not an improper amount of opioid prescription drugs funneling through. Everybody's been looking the other way because there's so much money to be made. So that money is going to have to be there, and that's why we're pursuing the lawsuit. At the same time, we are building, we're one of the leaders in the nation in building a very comprehensive opioid prevention and recovery program. We're going to be first in the nation, and we're serious about it, and we're going to get it done.
And to be clear, the lawsuit we're talking about is a circuit court lawsuit.
Yes.
That names, I believe by my count, 24 opioid manufacturers and distributors, national names that everybody would recognize on this.
Yeah, and we're not alone. It's we're joined by about what I think it's up to about 150 other counties in the area. So we're not alone, because we wouldn't be able to take on this huge group of industries by themselves. And it's not everybody who's a distributor or everybody who's a pharmaceutical manufacturer. There are some who are such outliers in the way that they are turning a blind eye and allowing millions of pills to hit the street. And it's a group that is either intentionally or unintentionally functioning like a drug cartel. And I would stop it if it was on the street corner, and we intend to stop it if it's in the boardroom. And so, and in order to protect our people, both their health and what we have to pay, we already have the highest tax rate in the state. This shouldn't rest on my taxpayers. And so we're going after it.
We're doing a show on the counties. We're having Mayor Luttrell and County Health Commissioner on sometime soon. We got thrown off because of the storm. But also when I was in Nashville at the legislature last week, it clearly is a high priority for the legislature. I don't know what form that will take, but it clearly is for the governor and for a lot of legislators. I want to come back to something you said. We were talking about Westar and the West Tennessee coalition that you're working with. Does that also include, in terms of attention to West Tennessee, the mega site, the so-called Memphis mega site out in Hardeman County, Fayette County, kind of out in that direction, that is by some accounts still $80 million from being shovel ready, ready to go. And people in economic development in the local area will say Memphis missed out on a huge millions and millions of dollars investment in a manufacturing plant because that site wasn't shovel ready. So is that one of those priorities you talk about?
It definitely is. Let me go back to one other thing just to clarify though. When you say that it's a huge priority in the state for opioids, I just want to clarify it by saying, do you know what their total budget, what the state's budget is for the entire Department of Dangerous Drugs for the whole state? $500,000. Yeah. Of state money.
That's a great point.
$500,000. So, there's one thing, and legislators are great at doing this. Everybody's great about talking around a problem, but people are sick of that. They want actual solutions, and that's what we're trying to drive. And we appreciate the help from the city in being supportive of it, because this is the biggest issue we're going to face. So now over to Westar. The mega site is a huge deal. Workforce is also a huge deal. One of the realities is, if we get a big business to come that way, do we have people who are capable of doing the jobs? Do we have enough people to put towards that workforce, and can they pass the drug screens? And opioids are now part of drug screens.
And the mega site, for people who don't know, we talk about it and write about it a lot. The mega site is a designated area that is built. There was a Middle Tennessee mega site, an East Tennessee mega site. And it's really the kind of open land that has basically the roads and the infrastructure is the idea for a major manufacturer, whether it's a car plant, there was talk of a tire plant, some sort of major manufacturing. And they're all over the country, these mega sites kind of waiting, and local communities, statewide efforts to populate them with factories. And there's been some disgruntled, some bad feelings that the West Tennessee site was not completed after all these years of little bits of money going into it, that it's still $80 million short. That's a fair description
that
for people who don't know what the mega site is?
And that's a very fair description, which is one of the reasons why a group like Westar is so important, because for a long time, honestly, West Tennessee has been, in my view, just kind of little bits of counties working together hither, thither, and yon. We need to move with one voice. We don't agree on everything, but we can agree on the things that are mostly good for West Tennessee. And it's time for us to do it, and we're going to do it. And I'm just really pleased with a lot of the leadership that we've got, because I have never seen a time when the different leaders in West Tennessee, including my friends over on the city side, have been willing to work together to try to advance our whole regional agenda. There's always that push and pull between rural and urban, but we can work through that.
Right. Well, I guess a question to both of you: how much coordination is there between you all, between the council and commission? There have been periods of time in the 25 years I've been in Memphis where they were two different islands. I mean, they were at odds. You know, the county commission seemed to, you know, people had the perception that they represented suburban interests and the city council was focused on them. Is there more coordination? Is there, you don't have to agree on everything to coordinate.
Right.
Your
well, the
thoughts?
one thing that I can say that, you know, our colleagues over on the county commission side, they did send a resolution in support of the monuments being removed, even though they didn't have any action in that, but they supported our decision. We do reach out. The one thing that I've done, I've reached out to Chair Schaefer over at the County Commission because I want to do a joint retreat so that we can sit down and brainstorm as a council and a commission to kind of see how we can align with issues. You know, you did mention earlier, the city of Memphis is the largest city within Shelby County. So a lot of the county commissioners represent interests of not only county residents, but city residents as well. So there should be a level of alignment, but I think our relationships with our colleagues is very well. We reach out when there are issues that they can help out on and vice versa.
Yeah, so for instance, I mean, it's really kind of a personal thing, which suits Memphis, right? I mean, I know so many of the city council folks personally, and when there's an issue that I know somebody's interested in or it's in their district, I reach out. I couldn't get half of the things done for my constituents that I get done, like turning street lights back on and fixing potholes. And when there's a rash of burglaries in a specific neighborhood, I reach out to my city council counterparts and they help me get it done. And in reverse, when there's an area that they've got that's overrun with mosquitoes, which is a county thing, or if they've got a problem that's a county issue, or they're seeing schools that aren't doing well, they reach out to me personally. And you know, I'm sure we'll get better at it as time goes by, but in my experience, this is the most coordinated the city council and the county commission have ever been.
Yeah, I'll go to Bill.
As we're recording this program, Amazon, which is building a $5 billion HQ2, as they call it, has released their short list of 20 cities that they are considering. Memphis is not on the list. Nashville is, but at the same time, this comes the day after we've had an announcement from Apple that they plan on building a big campus somewhere across the country in a similar process. Your reactions to this, what does this mean for all of the work that went into the different sites we have?
Well, I think it was great because it was level of cohesiveness. Everybody worked together with the chamber, with EDGE, and we were aggressive. I think that if we had a little bit more support from the state, from their incentive for attracting Amazon, we would have been a little bit more competitive. But I think it also gives Memphis an opportunity to start reevaluating and looking at ourselves, looking at ways that we can improve, because we do have some issues that we need to address, such as public transportation. So it's an opportunity for us not to give up and not to lose hope, but to actually start improving on the things that we may need to improve on to become a bit more aggressive and competitive, seeking major sites like Amazon.
Heidi?
Well, and the sewer honestly plays a big part in this. I never thought I'd know so much about sewers, but but you know, one of the issues the county's going to have to grapple with is exactly whether the fee payers who would be in unincorporated, who'd be responsible for a new sewer, whether they're going to be willing to bear the $40 million it'll take to build a new sewer, you know, treatment plant. Without that, the unincorporated area will not develop anymore. And I know some people think that would be just fine, but others of us look at it and say that's a death knell for funding the schools, et cetera. So that's going to be a huge issue that's coming up. I do think that having that disconnect and having some uncertainty about whether if they wanted to locate out in an area, for instance, out in you know, an area of unincorporated, there was a big, really pretty good site up in the Millington area that was Shelby County. Not having that sewer be a sure thing didn't make us look good, right? And so I think those are things that we can learn from, and we're going to keep going until we get it right.
Right, and that goes back to the city saying this last fall that they're no longer going to do connections in unincorporated Shelby County, which we did do a show on right before the holidays and talk through all that sort of stuff. We're 6 minutes left here or so. I want to move on to some of the things you all have said because there's so much going on. One is schools. So the county commission funds the schools. There's a lot of trouble right now, some grade fixing, and what all is the funder? I mean, or a lot of money comes from the state, but the bulk is coming from the county commission. What's your take on what's happening with the schools and grade fixing? Does there need to be more oversight? Does the county commission need to step in more, or is it a Shelby County School Board issue and they should deal with it?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's primarily a Shelby County School Board issue and an administration issue. There is a little bit of some gray area when they talk about grade fixing, because there are some times when the grades are legitimately changed. If somebody takes a test and they fail it and they're given the opportunity to take the test again and that grade is changed, that's a legitimate way to fix a grade, because the idea of testing isn't to fail kids and trick them. The idea is to get them to know the information so they can pass the test, right? As a former teacher, that's a legitimate change. But there were obviously some changes, and in some schools where they've historically had trouble with exactly these things. And those kinds of things have to be addressed. I'm in pretty regular contact with many of the school board members and the superintendent. But I will tell you, there's a flaw in the way that our school funding system is set up. I think we have outgrown the mandatory same level of funding every year without any ties to performance. Because all it does is it sets up a school system that can be totally unresponsive to the taxpayers who fund it.
Is that maintenance of effort?
It is. It's the maintenance of effort. And I really think that, it might have been appropriate at the time, but I think a more suitable funding mechanism that is somehow tied to performance is something we definitely need to look into.
That would have to be approved by the state?
It would.
Yeah, okay. And for you, I know you touched on it, and obviously people are concerned about crime. The mayor did his State of the City this past week, talked about the graduating class from the police academy will take them over 2,000 police officers. Right. He's had a goal of getting back closer to the 2,500, I think was the peak number. Do you agree with the mayor's efforts in terms of ramping up the number of police? And two, what does that do from a budget point of view as you're adding those police officers?
Well, right now we're looking at our overtime budget from our police. We had peaked way over $11 million. And then with all the protests and everything, we peaked over $14 million. Overtime has been really hurting the city's budget financially. I think the more officers we put on the street, it will help with reduction of our overtime budget and having to pay that. But I think that, crime, you can put 1 million police officers on the street, it won't stop crime. But I think you have to have a cohesive plan to attack crime. Poverty and crime goes together like a hand in glove. Until you're able to start fixing the poverty problem by incentivizing, giving vocational training and finding things for people to do. The one thing that we have to focus on also is felons. A felon can't become gainfully employed in the city once they've commit and have a felony. So they have to
even
eat.
After they've served their time and they're out and
because that's why ban the box was important.
Right.
Because you don't want to check. If you check that I'm a convicted felon,
right.
Guess what? You're probably not going to receive employment. And so it creates a snowball effect that keeps rolling and growing. And so those individuals could continue to commit crimes. And so, recidivism is a major problem in our city, as well as, if you think about it, if you're going into a facility, you're incarcerated, are you really being rehabilitated, or are you just becoming another product of the system? So I think those things need to be addressed, as well as, it's great to have more police. I applaud that, but I think we have to dig deeper into the issue.
All right, just 2 minutes left, Bill.
So by April, by budget time, the administration and some of the city council members will have a funding plan for universal pre-K. Do you anticipate that's going to involve any kind of referendum on the sales tax increase that we've seen before?
Well, right now we are just trying to toss it around to find out how we can come up with a comprehensive plan to fund it. Sales tax may come up. We don't know. We are just looking throughout and trying to seek help. Not only from the state, but from our county colleagues, as well as trying to see if we should put a sales tax referendum out there as well.
Heidi, should the county have a role in this goal of universal pre-K in terms of funding?
I think we've got our hands full because the city gave us the schools. I think we've got our hands full. I'm happy to see the city step up and do some contributions to pre-K. We do have some pre-K initiatives, but honestly, our K-12 mission still needs work, and we have to really focus on that like a laser beam. And you know, we're talking about crime, we're talking about education, but I just want to reiterate, no new news, that the basis for a good society is a strong family unit. And that's not something government can legislate, but it is something that we as a community need to find a way to encourage, is for family units to be strong. Because there's no better teacher than a good mom and a good dad.
We could do a whole show on this, so just briefly, de-annexation, the mayor has been talking about de-annexing certain parts, sending it back to the county out of the city of Memphis. Is the council moving toward, aligned with the mayor on this idea of de-annexing certain areas?
Yeah, we know that that's probably going to be part of our punishment from the state. So what we're doing is just making sure that we can look at a plan and possibly de-annex areas that really no population growth, that's not a benefit to the city.
And how would that work? Do you need changes in state law to make that work, or does the city council have the authority now to de-annex?
We actually have the authority to de-annex areas.
Okay, that is all the time we have. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Bill, and thank you for joining us. Join us again next week.